The last letter told me to come to an abandoned warehouse if I wanted the truth about my cheating wife. What I found there wasn't her affair, it was her trap. But that night, standing under flickering lights and holding that final envelope, I had no idea how deep her game really went. I just knew my hands were shaking, my heart was pounding, and I was about to uncover something I could never unsee. Before I tell you how it all went down, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss more real stories like this one. Because trust me, this isn't the kind of story you hear every day. It all started about 3 months ago. One morning, I went to check our mailbox like usual, bills, ads, some junk mail. But tucked in the middle was a small, cream-colored envelope with no return address. The handwriting was neat, like someone had taken their time. Inside was just one line. You should check where she really is on Thursday nights. That's it. No signature, no context. Just that. At first, I laughed it off. My wife, Emma, had been staying late at work a lot lately, but she was in marketing, deadlines, meetings, launches. It made sense. Still, something about that letter didn't sit right. It wasn't random spam or some prank. It felt personal. Someone knew something. The next morning, I left for work early but looped back home just before lunch, pretending I'd forgotten something. Her car was still in the driveway. Nothing strange there. But when I checked our kitchen counter, her purse and keys were gone. I remember standing there, staring at that empty spot like it was some kind of clue. A few days later, another envelope appeared. Same paper, same handwriting. This time, it had more detail. She meets him on Oak Street, by the old cafe. Fridays, 8 p.m. Now my pulse really started to race. Whoever this was, they weren't guessing, they were watching. Oak Street wasn't far from my office, so that Friday, I decided to test it. I drove there early, parked across the street, and waited. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel the entire time. At exactly 8:10, a dark blue car pulled up. A woman stepped out, coat pulled tight, hair tied back. Even from the distance, I could tell it was Emma. She looked around, quick, nervous glances, and then she went inside. 5 minutes later, another car stopped in front. A man got out. I couldn't see his face clearly, but they greeted each other like people who'd done this before. I remember that moment like a punch to the chest. The air left my lungs. I wasn't sure if I wanted to storm in or disappear completely. But instead, I stayed. I needed to know. When she left an hour later, she walked fast, almost running. No hugs, no touches, but something was off. Something was absolutely off. That night, I didn't confront her. I couldn't. My mind kept circling the same question. Who sent those letters? And why? The following week, a third envelope showed up. This one was colder, sharper. It said, "She lies when she smiles. Ask her about room 312. There was even a printed photo, grainy, black and white, of what looked like Emma's car in front of a motel. Now it wasn't just suspicion. It was obsession. I started checking her phone when she showered. I tracked her calendar. She noticed my distance, asked what was wrong, but I played dumb. Just stressed, I said. But I was watching every move she made. Still, none of it made perfect sense. The letters seemed too precise, too timed, as if someone knew exactly how to push me, inch by inch, toward paranoia. Then one morning, I found the fourth letter already slipped halfway under our door, like the person had just been there. This one wasn't typed. It was handwritten again. She's playing you. He's closer than you think. I started thinking about my closest friend, Mark. He'd known us for years, worked with Emma before we even got married. He'd stopped by a few times lately, always with a casual smile and a bottle of wine. He was helpful, too helpful that I remember standing by the window, holding that letter, watching him walk up our driveway the next day to drop off something for Emma. My stomach turned. I could feel the ground shifting under me, like I was losing grip on what was real. That night, I barely slept. My mind kept looping through the letters, the coincidences, the glances. I told myself I'd confront her, but something inside me whispered to wait. Whoever was sending these letters, they wanted me to explode. They wanted me to fall apart. So I decided to do the opposite. I started documenting everything, photos of each envelope, timestamps, who was home, what was said. I didn't know it yet, but that choice would end up saving me. When the fifth letter arrived, it didn't accuse her directly. It only said, "The truth is closer than you think, but can you handle it?" That line hit me harder than all the others. It wasn't about catching her anymore. It was about testing me. I folded the letter, placed it on my desk, and stared at it for hours. My gut told me that whoever was behind this wasn't just trying to reveal something. They were building something. A story. A setup that I didn't know it then. But I was already walking straight into her design. That'd be why the time the sixth letter arrived, I was already living like a detective in my own home. I'd stopped sleeping properly. Every sound at night felt like a clue. The hum of the fridge, the creak of a floorboard, the vibration of her phone on the dresser. I'd lie there in the dark, pretending to be asleep, while my mind replayed every word from those envelopes. The letter was slipped under the door again. This one said, "You're closer than you think. Watch her when she says she's alone." There was no date, no address, just that line. Short, sharp, almost like an order. That evening, Emma told me she was going to meet a client. Her tone was calm, casual, but her eyes darted for just a second, enough for me to notice. She left at 7. I waited 5 minutes, then grabbed my car keys. The night air was cold, but my head was boiling. I followed her. She didn't go toward the city like she usually did. Instead, she took the highway out of town, heading toward the industrial district, the kind of place where people didn't go unless they had a reason. She finally stopped near an old building. Half the windows boarded up, one light still flickering inside. That I parked 2 blocks away and walked the rest of the way on foot. Every step echoed. I could see her through a dirty window, talking to someone. I couldn't make out who it was, but she was holding something, a folder or a small box. They didn't touch, didn't argue, just talked. Then she handed it over, looked around quickly, and left. I ducked behind a dumpster until she drove off. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone to take a photo of the place. Something about it, the secrecy, the location, it screamed setup. But a setup for what? That night, she came home acting like nothing had happened. She kissed me on the cheek, smiled, asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I played along. My stomach twisted, but I smiled back. I was deep in her world now, and I had to act like I didn't know a thing. Over the next week, things got weirder. My coworker, Jenna, mentioned that she'd seen Emma near my office one afternoon, but Emma had told me she was at a meeting across town. Then one night, when I came home late, I noticed something strange on my desk. My old notebook had been moved. Inside it were copies of 2 of the anonymous letters. Someone had been in my office. When I asked Emma if she'd been looking for anything, she shrugged and said, "Maybe I was just cleaning." But I knew she hadn't cleaned that room in months. The smell of her perfume still lingered on the pages. It wasn't just cleaning. She'd been checking what I had. I started keeping the letters somewhere else, a locked box in the garage. I even set up a small camera behind the tools, aimed at the shelf. I needed proof that someone was sneaking around. 3 days later, I caught her. The footage showed her walking into the garage while I was at work. She wasn't looking for anything in particular. She went straight to the shelf, opened the box, stared at the letters for a moment, and smiled. Not a happy smile, a cold one. Then she closed it, looked right toward the camera, almost like she knew it was there, and left. That moment broke something in me. Not because she was hiding something, but because she enjoyed it. The way she smiled, the way she looked directly at the lens, it wasn't guilt. It was control. That I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed to be smarter than that. I started recording everything. Every call, every letter, every time she left the house. My laptop became my lifeline, my only way to keep track of what was real. Then came the next letter, but this one wasn't in the mailbox. It was taped to our bedroom mirror. Almost there. One more step, and you'll see everything. That was the night I realized. Whoever was sending them wasn't trying to reveal her affair. They were trying to make me break first. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my reflection behind that note. I wasn't looking at a husband anymore. I was looking at someone she was shaping, molding, into a version of myself that she could destroy. But she underestimated one thing. I wasn't breaking. I was learning, and soon, I'd learn more than she ever wanted me to know. After that night, the house didn't feel like mine anymore. Every room had secrets. Every drawer whispered. Even the way the light fell across the living room seemed staged, as if someone had designed it to make me doubt what I saw. I tried acting normal. Breakfast, work, small talk. But my eyes never stopped scanning. Emma, on the other hand, was radiant. She smiled more, hummed songs while cooking, asked about my day like nothing had changed. Maybe that's what made it worse, the calmness, the control. One morning, as I poured coffee, she said, "You've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" I looked up and lied. "Yeah, just tired." She tilted her head slightly, studying me, like she was checking whether the performance was working. That same afternoon, I decided to go through her home office. Not to invade privacy, to survive. Her laptop was password protected, but she'd written the hint on a sticky note under the monitor. Our first date. It worked. The desktop opened. Inside a folder labeled Work, I found something that froze me. Scanned pages from my bank statements, my email passwords, even my credit card bills. I hadn't shared any of this with her. There were also files named letters_draft1 and letters_final. My stomach twisted so hard I nearly dropped the mouse that I clicked one open. It was a Word document, my name in the first line, and a paragraph describing me finding a note about Thursday nights. The exact wording of the first letter, down to the punctuation. That was the moment everything stopped making sense. And then, suddenly, made perfect sense. The handwriting, the timing, the precision, it was her. Emma had written them all. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the screen, feeling my heartbeat in my throat. She wasn't cheating. She was creating the illusion that she was, and I was her audience, losing my mind scene by scene. I copied the files onto a flash drive, closed everything, and left her office the way I found it. My hands were still trembling when I locked the door behind me. That night, I didn't sleep. I went through the letters again, matching them to what I'd seen on her computer. Every detail lined up perfectly. The anonymous tips, the handwriting, even the mistakes, all intentional. She wanted me paranoid. She wanted me angry. She wanted me to walk out on her, so she could paint herself as the victim. And the worst part? It was working. The next morning, she acted softer than usual. She made pancakes, something she only did when she wanted to smooth things over. She smiled across the table. "You look tired, honey. You should take a break." I almost laughed. A break? She was building a psychological maze, and I was the rat running through it. That night, I watched her closely. Every move, every glance. She sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, her face calm and unreadable. At one point, she looked up and said, "You know, trust is fragile. Once it's gone, it never comes back." I didn't respond. My heart was pounding too hard. That wasn't a statement. That was a warning. After she went to bed, I opened my laptop and backed up every file I had. The photos, the letters, the camera footage from the garage, the documents from her office. I even saved her internet history. If she was building a case to destroy me, I was quietly building mine to protect myself. The next day, a new letter arrived. Same cream-colored envelope. Same pen. Only this one said, "You can't win a game that's already been played." I stood there in the doorway, the morning sun hitting the paper, realizing what she was telling me. She wasn't warning me anymore. She was mocking me. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about marriage or money or pride. This was war, and wars aren't won by emotion. They're won by patience. So I smiled, tore the letter in half, and went upstairs to kiss her good morning, like nothing had happened. Because from that day on, she wouldn't be the only one pretending. After discovering the files on her laptop, something inside me changed. The fear was still there, but it wasn't the kind that froze you. It was the kind that sharpened you. Every breath, every look, every word between us turned into strategy. If she wanted to play mind games, I was going to play better. That morning, I walked into the kitchen and acted completely normal. She was pouring coffee, humming some pop song. When she looked up, I smiled and said, "You were right. I've been too paranoid lately." Her face lit up for a second, that subtle look of victory, like a puppeteer watching her strings move exactly the way she planned. That was fine. Let her believe she was still in control. That I started setting my own traps, quiet ones. I installed a second camera in the hallway, disguised as a smoke detector. I left a few fake letters in my desk drawer, ones that hinted I was planning to hire a private investigator. I even pretended to drink more, leaving empty bottles around, acting like I was falling apart. She took the bait almost immediately. One night, while pretending to be asleep, I heard her tiptoe into my office. The sound of a drawer opening, paper rustling, a soft, satisfied sigh. She was reading the fake letters. I stayed still, counting every breath. When she finally left, I smiled in the dark. She thought I was losing my mind, but really, I was watching her lose control. The next morning, she looked at me differently. Not with suspicion, but with calculation. "You've been working too hard," she said. "Why don't we take a break?" Maybe a weekend apart, just to clear our heads. I wanted to laugh. She wanted me out of the house, away from the evidence. But I played dumb. Maybe that's a good idea, I said. I'll go stay with Mark. Her smile twitched, the smallest crack in her performance. When she left for work that day, I went straight to her office again. This time I checked her email. There were drafts, long, manipulative drafts, addressed to herself. Messages she'd written pretending to be the anonymous sender. Lines like, "You deserve better. He doesn't love you anymore. And he'll find out soon. Don't worry." It hit me like a cold wave. She was creating both sides of the story. The letters to me, and the fake sympathy for herself. She was building an entire alternate reality, one where she was the victim of my imagined rage. That night, I made sure the camera in the hallway was on. Then I confronted her, not about the letters, but something smaller. "Hey," I said, "I noticed you've been checking my desk lately." She froze. "What?" "Nothing bad," I said, pretending to sound hurt. I feel like you don't trust me." Her eyes softened, almost convincingly. "I just worry about you, that's all." The thing is, I knew that camera was recording every expression, every carefully chosen word. Her tone, her manipulation, her crocodile concern, all of it. That footage would matter later. The next few days were quiet, almost too quiet. No letters, no strange messages. She even started acting affectionate again, cooking dinner, planning a movie night, laughing at my jokes like nothing ever happened. But I noticed the way she watched me when she thought I wasn't looking. That slight tilt of the head, that clinical curiosity, as if she was checking whether her experiment was working. Then, late one evening, I came home to find an envelope taped to the refrigerator. The same cream-colored paper, the same handwriting. My pulse quickened. I opened it carefully. Almost done. One last test. No details. No address. Just those 4 words. I looked around the kitchen, feeling the weight of it all. There were no more accidents here. Everything was deliberate. Every word, every move, every breath between us had been calculated. But now, so were mine. I put the letter down, turned off the light, and whispered to myself, "All right, Emma, your move." After the last letter, the house felt even colder. Not physically, emotionally. Every corner carried tension, like invisible wires stretched too tight. I could tell Emma sensed that I was close to something, but she didn't know what. And I wasn't about to give her any reason to suspect I was catching on. I kept up my act, tired, distracted, defeated. I'd sit at the kitchen table with my head in my hands while she moved gracefully around me, pretending to comfort me. But her eyes always said something different. She wasn't offering comfort. She was measuring my collapse. A few days later, I noticed she'd started keeping her phone face down. The screen never lit up around me anymore. One morning, when she was in the shower, I picked it up. Locked. But one notification flashed across the top before the screen dimmed again. Room booked. The Marlowe. My stomach turned. The Marlowe wasn't a restaurant or office. It was a small boutique hotel just outside town. I didn't know if it was another act or part of something bigger, but I had to see. That evening, she told me she had a late client dinner. I nodded, kissed her goodbye, and waited 10 minutes before following her. My headlights stayed off most of the drive. She parked behind the hotel, near the back entrance. I sat across the street, watching her walk in alone. 30 minutes passed, then 40. Finally, she walked back out, holding a folder, not smiling, not flustered, just calm. Like someone finishing a job. I followed her car, but instead of going home, she drove to Mark's office building, my best friend. The parking lot was empty except for her car and his. She went inside, lights flickered briefly, then went dark again. I waited an hour before she came back out. Same folder, same calm face. She drove off as if nothing had happened. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. Not yet. Because by now, I knew what she wanted, a reaction. Anger, shouting, anything that could make me look unstable. That night, when she got home, she smiled at me, kissed me softly, and said, "You look pale, honey. Everything okay?" Her tone was perfect, sweet, gentle, weaponized concern. "I'm fine," I said. "Just didn't sleep well." She brushed her fingers across my cheek and whispered, "You should take care of yourself. You've been different lately." Then she smiled again and walked away, leaving me standing there with that same chill in my chest. The next morning, I checked my desk and froze. Inside one of the drawers was a printed bank statement showing a withdrawal I never made. It was for $3,000, marked as cash. Someone had forged my signature. The same day, an email arrived at my work address from an unknown sender. Subject line: "Do you know what she's doing behind your back?" It contained a blurred photo of me sitting in my car outside the Marlowe the previous night. The angle was too perfect to be random. She wanted it to look like I was the one sneaking around. That was the moment I realized her plan wasn't just emotional. She was creating evidence, building a story where I'd be the paranoid, unstable husband, the one who drove her away. And when she left, she'd have every justification ready: the fake letters, the false receipts, maybe even a staged recording or two. But she didn't know I was recording her too. That evening, while she was out running errands, I checked the hallway camera footage. There she was, standing in front of my office, reading another fake letter I'd planted, one that said, "He knows everything." Her expression changed instantly. Her mask cracked. Fear just for a second. Then she tore it in half and left the room. That one frame, that split-second reaction, was everything I needed. Proof that she was behind it all. I transferred the video to a hidden drive, along with the files from her computer and screenshots of her fake drafts. Then I made one more decision, the kind that changes everything. If she wanted to play until I broke, I'd let her think I was breaking. I'd give her the performance she wanted, until she overplayed her hand. Because the one thing Emma didn't understand was that in every great performance, the audience only believes what the actor allows them to see, and I was done being the audience. After that night, I realized Emma was no longer hiding her control, she was showing it off. Everything about her changed. Her confidence, her posture, even the way she spoke carried this quiet arrogance, like a director watching her final act unfold exactly as planned. I kept pretending. I let my shoulders slump, my voice crack, my energy drain. She needed to believe she'd broken me. And she did. Every time I apologized for things I didn't do, her smile grew a little wider. She'd lean against the counter, arms folded, and say softly, "I just want my husband back." The words were tender, but her eyes were cold steel. A few days later, I noticed she'd started keeping a notebook, small, black, always with her. Once, while she was in the shower, she left it open on the nightstand. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. Inside were notes, not diary entries, plans. Monday, email to lawyer. Mention emotional instability. Tuesday, ask Mark to drop by. Make sure he sees the tension. Friday, record him if he raises his voice. Every line was a blueprint for my destruction. She wasn't just manipulating me. She was scripting every move like she'd already written the ending. That evening, she casually mentioned Mark again. "He's worried about you," she said. "He said you've been acting strange." My blood ran cold. She was already setting the stage with him, using my oldest friend as a witness in her story. I smiled weakly. "Maybe I have," I said. "I'm just tired." The next day, Mark actually dropped by. His visit felt rehearsed, his words too careful. "Hey man," he said, "I just wanted to check in. Emma said things have been rough lately." He glanced around, like he was looking for signs of chaos. I played along. "Yeah." I sighed. "Work's been killing me." He nodded but didn't buy it. I could see it in his face. The seed had been planted. She'd done it perfectly. Later that night, she came into my office while I was pretending to work. "You know, Mark thinks you should talk to someone," she said. "A therapist, maybe." "Maybe I should," I replied. "You've been really patient through all this." She smiled sweetly and touched my shoulder. "Of course. I just want what's best for both of us." And then, without realizing it, she said the line that confirmed everything. "You should take some time away. Clear your head. Maybe stay somewhere quiet for a while. I'll handle things here." There it was, her move. She wanted me gone. Out of the house. Away from the files, the footage, the truth. That night, I packed a small bag, just enough to make it believable, and told her I'd leave in the morning. She seemed delighted but tried to hide it. "That's probably for the best," she said, giving me a gentle hug. When she went to sleep, I stayed up copying everything. Every file, every camera clip, every screenshot. I backed it all up to a cloud drive she didn't know existed. Then I wrote myself a note and left it on the desk. "Taking your advice. I need some air." But I didn't go far. The next morning, I parked my car a few blocks away and watched the house from a distance. At first, nothing happened. Then, around noon, She returned home from her errands. 10 minutes later, Mark pulled into the driveway. They went inside together. My chest tightened. I wasn't angry, not the way I would have been months ago. I was calm, focused, because I knew this wasn't about romance. It was about witness building. She needed him on her side, someone to confirm her version of events. After an hour, they both came out laughing, like old friends sharing a secret. She handed him something, a flash drive. He looked confused but nodded before leaving. I didn't need to guess what was on it. Probably edited footage, emails, fake letters. Her evidence. That night, I returned home quietly. The house was dark. She was asleep on the couch, phone still glowing faintly in her hand. I picked it up, took a photo of the open message thread, a conversation with her lawyer. It read, "He's taking the bait. Should have everything ready next week." I placed the phone back exactly as it was, took one last look at her, and whispered, "Not this time," because she thought she was building a perfect story. She didn't realize I was already writing the ending. The day after I found that message to her lawyer, I woke up different. It wasn't fear anymore, it was clarity. I finally understood the scale of her plan and how much she underestimated me. For weeks, she'd been building her narrative, crafting proof of my downfall. But what she didn't realize was that every lie she created was also a breadcrumb, one I could trace right back to her. I spent the morning pretending to be gone. My car stayed parked down the block while I monitored the house through my hidden cameras. She didn't waste time. Within hours, she was on the phone with someone, calm, confident, rehearsed. I couldn't hear every word, but a few stood out clearly. "He's unstable. I have everything I need." I smiled to myself. Perfect. She was locking herself into the role she'd written, and now it was time for me to edit the script. That afternoon, I went back to the house quietly and slipped in through the side door. The cameras recorded everything. She was in her office, typing. I waited until she left for her meeting, then sat at her desk. Her email was still open. The folder labeled Evidence was full: audio clips, staged texts, edited photos. Some even had timestamps she'd faked to make me look like the aggressor. Instead of deleting them, I copied the entire folder to my cloud drive, and then replaced a few of the files with new versions. Same file names, same content, except now, each one carried hidden metadata showing when they were actually created and on whose device. Hers.it was subtle, quiet, and completely legal. She wouldn't even notice until it was too late. That night, I returned home early. She looked startled when she saw me standing in the doorway. "I thought you were staying out of town," she said, her voice just a bit too calm. "Changed my mind," I replied. "Missed home." She smiled, but her eyes flickered, uncertainty. "I was just about to head to bed," she said quickly. I nodded, watching her every move. "Good idea," I said. "Big day tomorrow." She hesitated. "What's tomorrow?" I shrugged. "You'll see." I slept soundly for the first time in months. The next day, I acted like everything was normal. Breakfast, small talk, even laughter. She didn't know what to do with that. For the first time, I was unpredictable, and that scared her more than anger ever could. In the afternoon, I accidentally left my laptop open with an email draft visible. The subject line read, "Meeting with attorney confirmed, Monday 10 a.m. I made sure she saw it. Her face went pale, though she tried to hide it. "Are you talking to a lawyer?" she asked, voice shaking slightly. I smiled faintly. "Just getting some advice. You never know what people are capable of." That night, she poured 2 glasses of wine. "For peace," she said, holding one out. I took it but didn't drink. Instead, I leaned back and asked, "Emma, if you ever wanted to tell me something, anything at all, would you?" She froze for half a second, just enough to tell me everything. "Of course," she said, smiling too quickly. After she went to bed, I checked my hallway camera again. She'd poured her own glass of wine down the sink. The one she gave me, still full. She'd set it aside. I zoomed in. There was residue inside the rim. Faint, but visible. She was getting desperate. The next morning, I took that glass, sealed it in a bag, and left it in my locked car. I wasn't sure what she'd try to do, but I wasn't taking chances. Later that day, I called a private attorney. Quietly, calmly, explained the situation. The manipulation, the forged documents, the emails. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't need to. The evidence spoke for itself. The lawyer listened carefully, then said, "If what you're saying is true, She's the one building a case against herself. That line stuck with me. When I came home, she was in the kitchen pretending to cook, pretending to smile. I looked at her and said softly, "You know, Emma, lies are like mirrors. Sooner or later, they turn back on you." She froze, the spatula trembling slightly in her hand. "What do you mean?" "Nothing," I said, smiling. Just thinking out loud. That night, for the first time, I saw something new in her eyes. Not control, not confidence, just a flicker of fear, because deep down, she could feel it. Her story was starting to fall apart. The next few days felt like a standoff, quiet, careful, full of polite smiles that meant nothing. I could tell she was watching me constantly, waiting for a sign that her plan was still working. But it wasn't. I was no longer the broken man she'd been shaping. I was studying her, documenting her, letting her unravel herself. It started small. She began making little mistakes, details that didn't match. One morning, she said she'd been at her lawyer's office all afternoon. Later, I noticed her car's GPS showed she'd driven in the opposite direction. When I casually asked if the meeting had gone well, she blinked twice before answering. "Yeah, productive." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I'd learned to stay calm, almost detached. Every false sentence she spoke was another line in the case I was building. I no longer reacted. And that's when she started to panic. That evening, she pretended to have a casual dinner ready. Candles, soft music, that perfect domestic calm she used to disarm me. Halfway through the meal, she leaned forward and said, "You know, you've been different lately. It's good. I think you're getting better." Better. As if my sanity had been something she owned. That I looked up, smiled gently, and said, "Maybe I am. Sometimes a little distance helps you see things clearly." She froze, just for a heartbeat. I saw her calculating what that meant. Distance, perspective, truth. She forced a laugh and changed the subject. But her hands were trembling when she picked up her wine glass. After she went to bed, I checked her laptop again. The evidence folder was gone, deleted. But she'd forgotten that deleted files don't disappear completely. I restored them. Except now there was a new document inside, titled Final Statement. It was a letter addressed to her lawyer, and it was all about me. She wrote that I was unstable, paranoid, and verbally aggressive. She claimed she feared for her safety and planned to leave before things escalated. The tone was calm, almost clinical. It was clear she'd been working on it for weeks. The bottom of the document was a new edition, meeting scheduled, warehouse, Saturday evening. All evidence to be stored there for delivery. A warehouse, the same kind of place from her last letter. The one that started this whole nightmare. I sat there staring at the screen, realizing what she was doing. She wasn't just setting me up at home. She was preparing a final act, something dramatic, something that would make her version of events impossible to question. I printed the document, stored it with my other files, and shut down her computer. My hands were steady now. For the first time in months, I wasn't the one reacting. I was ahead. The next day, she acted unusually cheerful, almost radiant. She hummed while cleaning, kissed me on the cheek before leaving for a quick meeting. But her eyes gave her away. There was triumph in them. She thought she'd already won. That evening, I prepared carefully. I charged my camera, checked my recorder, and took the flash drive with all my evidence. If she wanted me to go to that warehouse, I would. But this time, I wouldn't be walking into her story. She'd be walking into mine. At 8 p.m., I parked a block away. The air was cold, the streetlights flickering. Her car was already there. The warehouse looked half abandoned. Broken windows, rusted doors, a place designed for secrets. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. It was quiet, except for the echo of my footsteps. In the center of the room, under a single hanging light, sat a box. Cream-colored envelopes were stacked neatly inside, every single letter she'd ever sent me. Beside them, a folder labeled Final Evidence. But she wasn't there. I crouched, opened the folder, and froze. Inside were photos of me, sitting in my car, standing in our driveway, looking lost, each one time-stamped, captioned, evidence of surveillance behavior. Then I heard the sound of heels behind me. Slow, confident. Her voice cut through the silence. "I knew you'd come." I stood, turning slowly to face her. She was calm, composed, holding her phone up like she was recording. "You shouldn't have followed me," she said. "This isn't healthy." I smiled, small, controlled. "You're right," I said quietly. "But neither is lying." For a split second, her expression faltered. The camera in my pocket was rolling. Every word, every breath, every look was being documented. She didn't know it yet, but her final act had just begun. Her phone's red recording light glowed like a warning. She stood perfectly still, the picture of calm confidence, while my heart hammered quietly in my chest. The air inside the warehouse felt heavy, stale, like it hadn't been touched by truth in years. "Emma," I said, keeping my voice low and steady. "You really went all out, didn't you?" She tilted her head, her tone soft but venomous. "You need help, Daniel. You've built this whole fantasy in your mind. These letters, these stories, they don't exist." She motioned toward the box behind me, her phone never leaving my face. "You see things that aren't there. That's what scares me." Her words were rehearsed, her expressions perfect, a performance refined through weeks of manipulation. But she didn't realize I already knew the script. "Then what's that box?" I asked. Her eyes flickered, just a fraction of a second. "Old papers. You should go home. Let me handle this." I took one step forward, my calm almost unnerving even to myself. "No, I think I'll stay. You've worked hard on this story. I'd hate to miss the ending." She shifted slightly, uncomfortable with my composure. The phone trembled just a little in her hand. I could tell she was waiting for a reaction, anger, shouting, anything she could twist into evidence. But I gave her none. Instead, I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my own phone. Screen already lit. A faint red light blinked on the corner. I'd been recording since the moment I entered. Her smile faltered. "You're recording me?" she asked, voice rising for the first time. I nodded. "Just keeping a record. You taught me that." She tried to recover. "You can stop now, Daniel. This isn't going to end the way you think." "Actually," I said quietly, "it's going to end exactly the way I think." I took another step toward her. "You've been sending me letters for months. You built fake evidence, lied to your lawyer, and tried to make me look insane. But here's the thing. I have everything. Every file you created, every timestamp, every deleted message, even the ones you thought were gone." Her face drained of color. "You're bluffing." I shook my head. "Am I?" I turned my phone toward her. The screen displayed the video of her in the hallway, smiling as she opened the box of letters, her voice whispering, "He's finally breaking." She stared at the screen, silent. Her breathing quickened, not guilt, but fear of losing control. "You don't know what you're doing," she said sharply. "You're twisting everything." "No," I said calmly. "You twisted everything. I just untied the knots." I walked past her, toward the box, and picked up one of the envelopes. It was one of the first, the one that said Thursday nights. I held it up. "This is your handwriting, Emma." I compared it. Same loops, same spacing. You didn't even bother to disguise it. She stepped forward, her voice shaking now. "You don't understand." I understand perfectly," I interrupted. "You wanted me to walk away. Angry, broken, ashamed. You wanted me to hand you the house, the money, and my reputation all at once. But you went too far. You forgot that every performance leaves traces." Her phone slowly lowered. "So what now? You think anyone will believe you over me?" I smiled faintly. "They don't have to believe me. They just have to see the truth." I pulled out the flash drive from my pocket and placed it on the table beside the box. "Everything's backed up, Emma. Your letters, your voice recordings, your emails, even your final statement. It's all there. I've already sent a copy to my lawyer." She stared at the drive like it was poison. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You wouldn't." I met her eyes. "You did this, not me." For a moment, silence filled the room, heavy, suffocating. Then her shoulders slumped, and she finally broke character. "I just wanted you gone," she said softly. "You never noticed me anymore. You were always working, always distracted. I wanted control back." There it was, the truth, small and ugly. I nodded slowly. "You got your control," I said, "just not the way you planned." Without another word, I turned and walked toward the door. She didn't follow. Her phone was still recording, but now it was her own evidence, a record of everything she'd confessed. When I stepped outside, the air felt lighter, clean. For the first time in months, I could breathe. Behind me, that warehouse stood silent, like it had swallowed her lies whole. That I didn't need revenge anymore. I'd already won. The morning after the warehouse, everything felt still. No letters, no whispers, no lies waiting in the mailbox. Just silence, real silence. The kind that comes when the storm has finally spent itself. I sat at the kitchen table, the same spot where all this had started months ago. The same table where I'd first opened that cream-colored envelope. Only this time, there were no shaky hands, no racing heart. Just coffee, sunlight, and peace. Emma had moved out quietly a few days later. Her lawyer called once, polite, distant, careful. He'd reviewed the evidence I'd sent him, and that was the end of it. There was no trial, no dramatic scene. Just a quiet settlement and a line drawn between us that would never be crossed again, that I didn't want revenge anymore. Not really. What I wanted was my life back. And that's exactly what I took. The house felt different without her. Lighter. I started sleeping again, eating again, living again. I fixed the squeaky door she always complained about, painted the walls, and even planted a small garden in the backyard that I found the flash drive one morning sitting on my desk. The one that held everything. Every file, every letter, every lie. For a long moment, I thought about deleting it. But instead, I locked it in a drawer. Not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that I'd survived it. You see, people think betrayal always looks dramatic. Shouting, tears, chaos. But the real kind? It's quiet. It wears a smile. It hides in words like love and trust. It moves slowly, until one day you wake up and realize you've been living inside someone else's story. That I learned to write my own again, that I started my own business, something I'd always put off. I took trips I'd never had time for. I rebuilt friendships I'd neglected while drowning in suspicion. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just free. Sometimes, I still think about that night in the warehouse. About how close I came to losing everything. Not just my marriage, but my sanity. And I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't stopped to think. If I'd reacted instead of planning. If I'd given her exactly what she wanted, a man falling apart. But I didn't. I stayed calm. I stayed quiet. And that's what saved me. That I don't hate her. I don't even pity her. I just understand now that some people don't want love, they want control. And when they lose it, they'll burn everything around them to the ground, just to feel powerful again. So yeah, I walked away. Not angry, not broken, just done. Sometimes, doing nothing is the loudest revenge of all. So tell me, do you think I did the right thing? What would you have done if you were in my place? If you want more stories like this one, real, raw, and impossible to forget, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. I've got plenty more tales that will make you question just how well you really know the people closest to you. Until next time, stay smart, stay calm, and always read the fine print in the stories people write for you.